Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. Today I want to talk about everything I read in January and maybe a little bit about what I'm going to read in February. Today is the 5th, I believe, so we're a few days into the month already, and I've already finished 2 books so far in February, which is much more than I can say for last month. I finished 4 books in January, which is a lot, but it is slow for me. I think last month I just ended up spending a lot of my time doom scrolling, which I would not recommend. Anyway, okay, I left these in the opposite order of what I need them, so we're just gonna do this. First book I read in January, Seduction Theory by Emily Adrian. I had never heard of this author or this book before I found it on Book of the Month, and like the cover is really pretty, right? Gorgeous cover. It looks intriguing. It's really small. I think this was, maybe around 200 pages, and I had just finished Nosferatu by Joe Hill on New Year's Eve. So that one being as long as it is, I wanted to start the year off with something small, like something short, like a quick read that I could get through really fast, and this proved to not be that. This book is about a grad student. Is she a grad student? She's in college. 2 of the professors at the school she goes to are married. They are a couple, and she gets a little bit obsessed with their relationship. She gets very close to the woman, the wife, and it kind of just goes off the rails after that. The student decides to write her thesis on the marital issues of this couple that are both professors at her school. I did like the writing. The writing was good. There was one writing choice that I didn't love, which also might have just been the voice of the character. She would do this thing where she would tell an entire scene and then be like, just kidding, it didn't happen like that. Here's how it happened. And I thought that was exhausting, for me at least. I don't know if that would be for everybody, but other than that, I really enjoyed the writing. I did not enjoy the story or any of the characters. They were all pretty insufferable, if I'm being honest. I think I liked Simone a little bit sometimes, who was the wife in the couple, and that's about it. Yeah, I think I gave this one a 3.25 because my enjoyment level was just pretty low the whole time. It took me, you can see this is a pretty short book. It took me a really long time to get through, and I was on winter break at the time. I wasn't even working, so I didn't have anything else to occupy my time. I just didn't really ever want to pick this up. That is book number 1 for January. We didn't start off so great. In the book number 2 slot, I just put my Kindle between the books because I didn't want to forget this time that I had a book in the running that I didn't have a physical copy of. I got an ebook of The Winter People by Jennifer McMahon. I've never read by that author before, but I saw a couple other people talking about, is it called My Darling Girl? Kind of a Christmas themed one. I haven't read that one, but I heard someone talking about The Winter People and it sounded really creepy, and I love creepy. And it was set in January. It's set in a snowy time, The Winter People. So I decided to pick it up, and it was completely not on my TBR whatsoever, but the second I heard about it, I was like, that sounds nice. And I am every bit of a mood reader, so that just had to come up next. I read that one pretty fast. I liked it. It was creepy. I think I found myself at the end wishing it was creepier or scarier, but I don't think it's actually in the horror genre. I think it might be more of a thriller. I did like it, don't get me wrong. I quite enjoyed it. I think I gave it 4 stars. The writing was pretty good. I myself thought at the end that there were a few plot holes, a few questions that I didn't get answered that I wanted answered. Other than that, overall, my enjoyment level on that one was pretty high. I liked the idea. It reminded me a lot of another book, a very popular book. If you've read it, you might know what I mean, but if not, the synopsis doesn't go into too much detail, so I don't want to spoil anything. Anyway, that one was pretty good, pretty creepy. I recommend. The next book I read is This a Cry for Help by Emily Austen. Already one of my favorite reads of the year because I am a huge Emily Austen fan. I've read all 3 of her other books, and this one, I was so hoping it was going to be in Book of the Month for that month, and then it wasn't when their picks came out, and I got really sad. But I saw the green and the blue in the Aardvark hint before their books dropped, and I knew it was this, and it was, and I was so happy. So here we are. I got this, and I loved every second of it. Every second of it. I adore Emily Austen's writing. I love the stream of consciousness way that she writes stories. It's basically what my own mind sounds like, so I relate to it a lot. I relate to her characters a lot. This one in particular is about a librarian, Darcy. A librarian named Darcy who returns to work at a public library after having a bit of a mental breakdown. When she returns to work, things are happening like people wanting books banned, and there's a word I'm looking for. Maybe it's in the synopsis, because I suck at this. Okay, it's fine. We're gonna move on. I loved this one every bit as much as I loved her other ones, and I 100% recommend this. I gave this 5 stars. I've given all of Emily Austen's books 5 stars. I will buy anything she writes. The final book that I finished in January was Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews. I love C.G. Drews. Their writing, impeccable. Like, there's nothing about it that I don't like. I love the way they write. I love the stories they come up with. The, like, rotting botanical horror is just perfection. I love it so much. And these covers, like, look at the back of this one, too. Just look how gorgeous. I read Hazelthorne in December. I talked about that in my best books of 2025 because it made my top 10 out of 103 because it is that good, guys. It is. And this one was written before that, and I've heard so many good things about this. I just ended up reading Hazelthorne first because that's just how it happened. And the second I finished Hazelthorne, I wanted to pick this up. I restrained myself because I wanted to finish my December TBR, and I'm glad I did, because sometimes when I do that, when I read kind of similar books one after the other, they can kind of meld together in my head, and when I'm remembering things, I'm not sure which book it was from. So for that reason, I'm glad I didn't do that, and also because that means that in January, I got to enjoy another one of C.G. Drews' works. Glad I spaced them out. C.G. Drews has 2 books coming out this year. One, I think it's in March, and the other one is later this fall, and I absolutely cannot wait. I will be ordering them immediately. That was my final book that I finished in January. I was reading... yes, I listened to it on audiobook. That's why it's not sitting here next to me. I was listening to Anne of Green Gables for most of January, and I finished it right at the beginning of February. So that one isn't on my TBR because I was already listening to it when I picked out my TBR. But I finished Anne of Green Gables, loved it. I had never read it before, which is kind of sad to me because I think if I had read Anne of Green Gables as a child or a young adult, I would have absolutely adored it. It would have been one of my favorite things. So a little sad, but I'm glad I read it now. I loved it so much. It felt so nice. Anyone who has read the entire series, are they all as good as the first one? Because there are a lot of them, and I'm deciding if I want to go through the whole series or if I'm okay just reading the original. That was our first... No, that's not true. I read with the Game of Tomes book club. I can link the accounts of Emmy and Carolyn down at the bottom because they are the ones who lead and run that book club. They are both fantastic. Go check out their channels if you haven't already. The first Game of Tomes book for the year is Moby Dick. I tabbed this one out for 3 months because I messed up. It was supposed to be for 4 months, but it's fine. So I've been reading this since the beginning of January, and I will finish it at the end of March. And I'm getting a little bit off track. I'll come back to Anne of Green Gables in 1 second. This, I like it so far, but it's one of those books that makes me question my ability to read. Like, just the way it's written, and the way some people talk, I have to go back and reread things, and it can be a little bit... It's... You know what? Final thoughts will come later, but there are parts that are hard to get through. If I'm tired at all, I can't read this because I will start to drop off a little bit. I am not disliking it. We are not fully on the chase for the whale yet, so maybe it will pick up a little bit at that point. Anne of Green Gables is supposed to be the second book of 2026. I don't even know what year it is anymore, guys. Anne of Green Gables is going to be the second book of 2026, and I just decided to listen to it on audiobook because I had it sitting there for a long time, and I needed something to listen to while I drive, so I've already knocked that one off the list. Moving on to my February TBR. I have already gotten a little ways into this, but here we go. Murder by Cheesecake, a cozy Golden Girls mystery by Rachel Ekstrom Courage. I have never heard of this writer before, but I am a huge Golden Girls fan. It is my comfort show. I watch it over and over again. I have it on more often than I don't, probably. As soon as I saw this, I had to pick it up, and I am so glad I did. It felt very nostalgic. It felt almost exactly like watching a Golden Girls episode. A long one, to be fair, but it really did. It was written just like that. She got the characters just about perfect. The vibes were pretty impeccable, guys. If you are a Golden Girls fan, I definitely recommend this. It is very fun, very nice. I think I gave it 3.5 stars because the writing was okay. It felt like a Golden Girls episode where the writing is not always perfect, let's be honest. I loved this. I had fun. I will be buying the second one whenever it comes out later this year. The next book on my February TBR, which I am currently reading, is The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kiersten White. I've had this on my TBR for a long time. I want to say I heard about this one in one of Emma's videos. I could be mistaken, but I'm pretty sure that's where I heard about it. And I am just obsessed with Frankenstein. I love the original Frankenstein. I collect copies of that and Dracula. I have a whole shelf of that. We'll do a bookshelf tour sometime. That might be fun. And last fall, I read Lucy Undying by Kiersten White, which is a retelling of Dracula from the point of view of Lucy. And then this one is a retelling of Frankenstein from the point of view of Elizabeth Lavenza. So Kiersten White does this thing, at least with these two, where she retells the classics from the point of view of like one of the main female characters, which I love so much because we won't really get into Lucy Undying, but it was really cool to hear her point of view because she is one of the female characters in that story that we don't get much from her. Honestly, we get a lot from the men around her. Same in this one. When we think about Elizabeth, there's not much there in the original Frankenstein story, is there? We know a lot about Victor and a lot about how Victor feels. Not much about Elizabeth. And this, so far, I'm not very far in. This has been fantastic. It's so much fun. I love it. I am having so much fun with it. Next up, this will be a reread for me. Howl's Moving Castle. I read this a few years ago. I actually watched the movie for the first time after I read the book. So it's been a minute because now I've seen the movie like 100 times. I adore it. And I remember loving the book, but I remember it being pretty different from the movie. So I really want to read it again because I love the story. And I mean, come on, look at this cover. Gorgeous. I'm so excited. I know it's going to be so cozy and so nice. The final book on my actual TBR that I picked out for February is Hunting Prince Dracula by Carrie Maniscalco. She also wrote Stalking Jack the Ripper, which I read in December and I really liked. I had a lot of fun with that. This is the sequel, a little bit bigger than the first one, but I really enjoyed the first one, so I'm pretty excited to dive into this one and see where the story takes us. That is the end of my physical TBR. And I only chose 4 books for February, probably because I was maybe feeling a tiny bit discouraged about the amount of books I read in January, which is fine. 4 is still a lot for 1 month. That's like 1 book a week. However, I normally read more than that a month. So with any luck, I will get through all of these and be able to pick up a couple of other things, maybe on my Kindle, maybe not. Like I said, I am quite the mood reader, so I can have a TBR picked out and then they just won't feel right, and I will pick something completely random off the shelf that does feel right. So we'll see where that takes us. Anyway, that is about all for my current reads, my reads in January, and I think that's all I've got for today. I hope that you guys had a good time. Thank you for being here, and if you've hung around until the end, extra thank you for that. I will be back very soon, and I hope to see you guys there.